The most exhausting feeling during my PhD was that feeling that nothing is ever done. For example, I had that draft that was half finished. Then I had this presentation that was sort of only with the introduction. Then I had this side project that sort of began but didn't quite, it didn't get anywhere. And all of those things, like I could go on and on about the things that are half finished, like something that is you put so much energy into it, but it never feels done. Whether because of you, because you are so busy with other things that you never finish it, or because someone else, maybe your supervisor, never reads your paper, or so it blocks the progress, or I don't know, someone else, some collaborator doesn't do their part of the job, so it blocks the progress, and so on. And I felt that this half-finished projects, and because the fact that nothing ever felt finished, my brain was always struggling to switch off. Because even when I tried actively not to think about research, not to think about my PhD, it would sort of always be somewhere in the back of the head. Why? Because of that feeling of not being done. Like, when people said, no, I shut down my laptop at Friday 5 p.m. and then I don't think about it until Monday morning. Well, this never happened with me during my PhD because I was always thinking about it. And even when I was making a conscious attempt not to think about it, I would feel guilty about not thinking about it, and then I would still thinking about it. And the weird thing is that your brain sort of gets addicted to constantly being in that, I would say, I don't know if this is the correct term, like a cortisol rush, that you're always sort of expecting something and making sure that it's done and finishing and wrapping things up and so on. So that's something that is super, super exhausting. And that's something that I found very triggering and very hard to deal with until I realized that there are some mechanisms that I can put in place so that I can rest even though some things are not finished, not done, and not completely, the way I would like them to be, like perfect and already packed and the paper is already submitted and everything accepted and everything is already figured out. But the problem was that the focus, the time it took me to really re-educate my focus was also something that I had to learn how to do. And it was not easy at all. So I think that people, when they talk about what is hard in a PhD, they kind of never mention that you have this constant feeling of things not quite being done. And the worst part is that there are always things added on the to-do list. So you first have a half-finished draft. Then you have another half-finished presentation. Then you have another semi-accepted paper. Then you have another paper that is in revision. Then you have another thing that you wrote. Like I wrote the method section, but not the introduction, but not the conclusion, and so on. So those things that are not finished are multiplying because every time, and the more you have them, the more likely you are going to have more of them. Because of course, if you stop some action to continue with the other, then the other is left half done, and so on, like exponentially. So the thing that I want to transmit with this video is that it is normal. It doesn't have anything to do with you. It's the nature of research, of how research literally looks like, because in an ideal situation, we would have infinite time to think about something, infinite funding, and so on. But in the real world, we have constraints, we have deadlines that sort of push everything to be very, very rigid and strict, which then makes us prioritize and leave things half finished. So I want to tell you that if you are there right now, if you are feeling that you are always starting things but never getting them done, there is a solution for that. You are not alone in this, and I can help you figure out how to start closing things, especially if you're approaching the end of your PhD journey or end of a journey in a certain lab and you're continuing your postdoc somewhere else. So how do we make sure that we wrap things up and make sure that those things are ending in something that is physically there? A paper, a thesis, a presentation, a draft, and so on. So if you're feeling and floating in this kind of mess, that you're always starting things but never feeling that they are quite done, I want to invite you to schedule a completely free intro coaching call with me. I will leave a link down below in the description where you can schedule it, where we can discuss exactly that. What are those specific tasks? What are those specific things and steps that you should take in order to make sure that things are finally starting and finishing in their time? So having said that, I want to just remind you that you do not need to try harder, because this is something that I was trying to do when I was first starting to figure out what am I even supposed to do with all of that bunch of mess. It's not about trying harder, it's about allocating the mental space and bringing structure to the things that you have so that you know what is your next step and what is the next step that should happen. Because one thing is to be lost and not know why you are lost, and the other thing is to be lost while knowing why you are lost. So this is the very first step, and then we can work together towards something more clear, to finishing those drafts, to finishing those papers, to finishing those theses, and actually making that experience something that is not chaotic but structured, and most importantly that it brings you peace of mind, which is something that all PhD students, postdoc and researchers really crave. So thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, see you in the next few days with another video. Bye bye.